Back to one of our top stories, the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. Kirk Burkhalter joins us now. He's a former detective with the New York City Police Department and a New York Law School professor of criminal law. Thank you for being here. I want to ask you about the role that local governments typically play in ICE operations, and how does what you have seen in the past differ from what we are seeing now from current Trump administration policy?
Certainly. So the first thing to realize is that federal law enforcement agencies carry out enforcement activities in our larger cities, New York, Chicago, LA, and so forth, on a daily basis between the DEA, the ATF, and so forth. So it's not uncommon to have a federal agency doing these types of activities. How much law enforcement is involved is very much up to the chief executives of that particular entity, or be it a mayor or whomever. So in other words, local law enforcement will not and cannot impede operations. But what we're really talking about is the level of cooperation, whether a police department is going to notify ICE if they take someone into custody who is here in violation of our immigration laws and so forth. And traditionally, in most of these large cities, we don't see that level of cooperation. They don't stand in the way, but they're not necessarily overly proactive in working with these agencies. Whether or not that will change under this administration remains to be seen. I don't think it's going to change much given the politics surrounding this issue.
What are the risks and benefits for the community for local law enforcement agencies to work with federal ones on immigration enforcement?
So it depends very much why they are working with federal law enforcement. So certainly the local agencies know the lay of the land. They know the people. They know the community. So if their purpose in working with a federal agency is to ensure that only the targets of a particularized enforcement are those who are going to be apprehended, detained, and so forth, then that can certainly be a benefit. However, if their purpose is to literally assist and not at the behest of the community and so forth, but to add literally strategic manpower to that agency, that's something completely different. Quite often, that's why local law enforcement stays out of the way, so to speak. What happens is these agencies do this enforcement activity, then they leave, and local law enforcement is there permanently. So they are left quite often with the ramifications of that particular enforcement activity.
Do these arrest missions eliminate some of the trust local police forces have built within these communities? And how does it affect day-to-day police operations if they're being pulled for immigration enforcement?
Well, it certainly can impact trust. Local law enforcement, it's always a struggle for local law enforcement to have the trust of the community and to be seen as a service entity as far as strictly an enforcement entity. When federal authorities show up, like ICE, they are there to strictly in an enforcement capacity. So it is not lost on these police departments how this affects their perception amongst the community. And I am certain that they take that into account with regards to whether they give assistance. Keep in mind, no local law enforcement agency is actually mandated to provide assistance. However, it is in their best interest and the best interest of everyone to ensure the safety of all those involved, including civilians. So most often, that's where you see they'll provide assistance.
Okay, Kirk Burkhalter, thank you so much.